guys, and welcome back to another episode of Earthen's Den. And in this episode, I'm going to be giving you guys the real deal, real tea in regards to why your business is failing, why the things that you are doing are failing. And first and foremost, I just want to thank everybody for tuning into the podcast. So what I see these days with so many people, and a lot of people, just can't think for themselves. Okay, I think that this is probably one of the biggest reasons why so many businesses fail. And the reason being is because I understand, you would not want to take business advice from a garbage man. You know what I mean? You wouldn't want to take advice from people who are not necessarily doing what it is that you're doing. But what so many people fail to realize is when it comes to your business and what it is that you're doing, you provide value in that. Your value in that, is based on your own uniqueness. It's based on what it is that you contribute to that space. And because we do have such a microwave society, and we are recognizing that technology is advancing and that marketing is booming and the digital space is at an all-time high. So we understand that, hey, this can actually happen sooner than X amount of years. But the deficit in that mentality is that we don't think for ourselves. So honestly, I think that a lot of businesses, a lot of really good ideas are not being birthed or even nurtured is because you're trying to fit other people's models into what works for you. Now, don't get me wrong. Like I said, I understand, if you have a mentor or if you are in a space with people who, are doing what it is that you do, you know what I mean? And you want to take advice from them. But the thing about social media, you guys, and this is what I stress to people so highly, is that it's such an illusion. You know what I mean? It's such an illusion. And so what you're typically seeing is maybe it was an exception. Maybe it took off, within a year for them, or, maybe it took off within 2 years, but what you're not seeing is the opportunities that they had beforehand. You're not seeing their seasons of cultivation. So it's what you take away, when you go online and you just, heed to everybody's opinions, everybody's advice in regards to your business, in regards to the things that you want to do, is that you really miss out on the things that can really help better you as a person and cultivate your value in those spaces, so you really can show up and dominate. You know what I mean? Yeah. So I think the thing is it's just this perfect thing. You look at this person, it's oh man, they're grinding. No, this is just today. You know what I mean? Because it's life, and I'm not ever making excuses saying that, people don't work hard every day. No, I definitely believe that there are people who are about their business and they say they're about it. But at the same time, I just think when it comes to social media, it's such a facade, and so many people really fall into this. And so you start to feel dang, when it comes to my business, it's not doing so well. But sweetheart, you just started it a month ago, or it's only been going for a year. And when you take into account all the things that you don't know, you know what I mean? It just makes it completely different. And so I personally, when it comes to business, right, I listen to people who are in my industry who have been there for 10 plus years and are striving. Okay. So for me, I'm so particular about who I listen to. And I do think that when it comes to certain business podcasts, certain information, certain platforms out there, it can be, there are some little nuggets that can really help you. But I just think at the end of the day, it's so important that you walk your own journey. And I think this is one of the things that probably frustrates me most about social media, is that we have all of these words of wisdom on these memes, but we have no idea how to apply them, right? Everybody's enjoy the journey, right? And I think that sometimes we interpret that as, forget about it, we'll do it today, probably not tomorrow. Maybe we want to do this, maybe we don't want to do that. And we step into a space where we kind of become, entitled, and we expect it to just kind of come to us. You know what I mean? But then it's on the flip side of that. It's you have people who are oh yeah, but you got to enjoy the journey. But yet they're putting these just this ideal life, or this facade of a life, in the minds of others, and people are really buying into that. And so it's just frustrating to see, because we just don't have a lot of free, independent thinkers. You know what I mean? Act on the ideas that come to your head. You know what I mean? That's what God is calling you to do. That's your particular vision. Yeah, they got a clothing brand, but their intentions weren't to do what you trying to do. You know what I mean? And I just think that that's where so many people go wrong. And it's we talk about, like I said, it gets so frustrated because you have these little nuggets, these little wisdom memes. It's a sentence or so. And it's your path and blah, blah, blah. But it's like nobody's really buying in that. Like nobody knows how to really apply the truth and actual aspects in regards to their lives. It's like this idea of the truth and conceptualism. It's non-existent. It's non-existent in the real world. And to me, that's just so crazy. I think sometimes too, it's like we just want it so bad to where it's like, we don't think that it can actually be, a journey. Like we think that we're missing out. But the truth is that when I look at my own personal life, I can honestly say, I have been so thankful because not only have I been cultivated, but there were certain things within me that had to be worked on. I never wanted a business. Like I see so many people, and I think this is also another deficit in regards to why businesses fail, because you take all of this advice, right? You apply it and you're really good at it and you're really dope, but you don't have the character to sustain the business. You're out here cussing out your customers. You're on here, being super rude, super nasty in the emails, you know what I mean? Or you are somebody who does not necessarily have the financial literacy to maintain the funds and to you know what I mean? And so it's like, I think for me, everybody's story is different. Right. But I do think that when it comes to certain things, like we talk about planning, it's like nobody's really thinking long term in regards to planning. And it's like, yes, you have a business today, but where are you taking this business? Where do you see this going within the next 5 to 10 years? And I think that this is something that is just not a conversation that's had. You know what I mean? It's not like, because everybody is in survival mode where we are working and there's nothing wrong with that. But I'm just here to kind of paint the bigger picture for everybody. Like I'm not knocking anybody who's in survival mode. Trust me, being broke is so expensive. Like I literally can't. Like I'm also pursuing my passions and I'm also putting forth the effort for my own journey, you know what I mean, as an individual, and as someone who is definitely aspiring to build wealth, you know what I mean? But I completely understand it. Like we're all in that space together. I say it all the time. This information has never been so readily available to us. Like we are seeing it every day. People are birthing $1 million businesses by the month, $1 million businesses by the years, so it's like, hey, why would I not step into this space as this opportunity? But I just think that so often we just take away from that, you know what I mean? And I think is that right there, like, I knew for me personally, it was the little things. I was always a very detailed person. And so for me, like starting this podcast, it's so beautiful because first and foremost, life just is so dope. Like it just all comes full circle. But back in 2017, when I started my podcast, I cashed out on equipment. There were no ads. Like I didn't know what it was that I was doing. I was so nervous. I think at that time, I didn't even have my own place. I think it was like 2018, 2019. I didn't have my own place because I had quit my job. I was like on this spiritual journey, honey, following God, and what it birthed was something so amazing. But yeah, I really was on some really hard times, but I was pushing through on this podcast. I was dealing with loss and grief and so many things, but I was pushing through, right? So I stopped doing the podcast because I had no idea what I was doing. It was on SoundCloud. It's the creatives.site. I had no clue what it was that I was doing, like none whatsoever, honey. I couldn't tell you, So yeah, and so I was like, okay, I'm going to stop doing this. But when I look back on it at that particular podcast, that was my stepping stone. That was me doing it. Oh, I'm so sorry, you guys. Excuse me. Oh my gosh. I'm so sorry. That was me doing it my own way. Like, that was me doing it my own way. Like, that was me learning for myself. And, I remember I seen this video by Rick Ross, and he talked about, like, I'm not worried about moving too fast. I just want to move correctly. I think that we live in such a hasty, society. Like, everybody moves so freaking fast. Like, it's insane. Like, people are just not taking time to really process their own thoughts, their true emotions about things. Like, don't get me wrong. Like, I personally think if you do what it is that you love, you're going to get to the bag. Why? Because this person who did it for money is not going to have the same drive as you. They're not going to bring the experiences that you're bringing because they did it for money. They got here, but at the same time, they didn't go through your journey and they didn't go through seasons of cultivation. So it's just like, I don't know, man. Like, I'm never knocking it, but at the same time, I just really believe we've lost a true sense of individuality. I believe that we've really lost the ability to think for ourselves and make our own decisions about the things that we want to do, the things that we're passionate about. And it seems as though, too, we've been fed this thing like, hey, if you're not doing these 3 careers, or these 3 entrepreneurial journeys, you're not going to make a lot of money. You know what I mean? And to me, that's bullcrap. Like, you have no idea. Like, do you know that every person has been given a vision? Every person has gifts. Every person has talent. You may think that starting a youth center, if that's your passion, you may think that starting a, car washing company or whatever it is not going to make a lot of money. But let me just tell you something about individuality. When God gives you a vision and he puts something on your heart and it's real and it's true, it's going to come to fruition. And when you get past all of the naysayers, all the people who say, oh, starting a car washing business or starting a youth center or whatever it is that you want to do is not going to make you any money. It's a wrap. It's dead in the water. It's not real estate. It's not anything that's going to be around, blah, blah, blah. When you actually step out on faith and you step out on your own common sense and your own individual, just like perceptions and feelings and emotions, God's going to bless that thing like 10 times harder. Like, I just think that we just live in such a space now to where it's like, if you're not doing these 3 things, people don't want to hear about it. And to me, I'm not with that. I cannot stress it enough. Like, it's so rare when I actually meet people who are individuals and like who do their own thing and they're not doing what everybody else is expecting of them. They're not doing what everybody else is doing, you know what I mean, to look a certain type of way or to, you know what I mean? To me, I respect that. And I've always connected with those type of people. But those are the type of people that society kind of ushers in the back, right? Because they're not wearing the trendy clothes. They're not, you know what I mean? But they're their own person. And for me, I can't even really say as I grew older, honestly, that's something I've always respected. Like, I was always cool with that. You know what I mean? And I don't know, it was weird because it was like, I don't think I was necessarily considered a nerd if we want to put a label on it. But I knew that I had always connected with independent thinkers, you know what I mean? And I think that that's just something that society just ushers in the back. And it's like, that's something that's not cool. That's not popular. Like me making a podcast telling you guys, stop following the crowd. That's not a popular opinion. Oh, what? No. You know what I mean? What does she mean? Don't follow the crowd. She's this or she's that. And look, you know what I mean? And so then we start to size up a person's life. And what do we say? Oh, this person's broke. I'm not going to listen to anything they got to say. Straight up. You know what I mean? You don't have a business. You don't have, you know what I mean? And I think that's where we go wrong every single time. It's like, the truth is that morals, values, and beliefs is out the window. There are no paradigms that really support a person's thinking. It's like a one-way track, a one-way cinema that's playing in the minds of so many people, and it's repetitious because it then goes on to an online platform where it's regurgitated, right? And so what happens is, like, when you have, like, we have these type conversations, people are not going to agree with this, right? Because it's like, what do you mean? Like, I'm starting a business. This is what I should be doing, blah, 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 blah. You know what I mean? So, and for me, I've never really been one to sit and argue with people. I'm such a peaceful person, but don't get me wrong. Like, I can be very confrontational when that time comes. You know, anybody who knows me knows that, hey, I'm not a candle ready to be lit. I'm a little bit more of an ice block. But hey, you don't want to don't chip too hard. You know what I mean? But I'm cool with that. You know, I really love my temperament. But anyways, that's not the point. I don't want to go completely left here. I just wanted to let everybody know, like, whatever it is that you want to do, if you want to start a comic book line, like, 9 times out of 10 is probably going to be so much more successful than somebody who's just starting another business that's already in the industry. And let me make this clear as well. If you are somebody who has your own ideas, your own everything, because let me just be real with y'all. I see so many people in certain fields and they have no business being in those fields. They are not contributing anything to the field, but what they have is belief within themselves. And I think that's also very important too. But I think let me just say this too, you guys, when it comes to believing in yourself, don't take a course, don't buy into a 3-step process. Belief in yourself comes from experience. And honestly, for me personally, and I'm pretty sure this is going to be something that's relevant to many others, belief in yourself comes from making your own decisions. And it comes from things turning out right. And it is birthed from things turning out wrong. But at the end of the day, you know that you're okay. And when it goes right, you're validated in your own experience. And when it goes wrong, you're in a space where you are still validated in your own experience because you at least took the chance and acted on you. So now you have like a sense of trust and confidence about yourself, because you know what? Even if I got it wrong, I still stood on what I believed. You know what I mean? And that right there is going to make all the difference. Trust me. So when it comes to believing yourself, you do have to have that. But yeah, like I see it all the time. There are people who are in industries where everybody's like, it's oversaturated. Yeah, because people are not passionate about it. That's not the calling on their life. That's not what God asked them to come on this earth and do. You know what I mean? But they're trying to get money, or they're trying to, and that's nothing wrong with it. Like, hear me clearly. Being broke is expensive, honey. It's expensive when you can't go and buy like equipment for what you're trying to do. It's expensive when you can't get some new sneakers and your feet hurt. Trust me, I understand it. But at the end of the day, it's just like, I mean, it'll pass, right? Like, it'll pass. Like, if you believe it'll pass, it will pass, Another little wisdom meme that nobody knows how to apply, right? No, I'm kidding. That's totally biblical. But yeah, like, there are people who are in spaces who have no idea what they're doing. It's a hot mess. And you'll be sitting around thinking that, oh my goodness, like, my idea is not this, or my idea is not that. One of the things I can always say about myself, and I definitely think it was just always being an individual, and I'm going to wrap up after this, but honestly, when you like think for yourself and you are so original, you're like so much more confident. And when you really are in seasons where you make your own decisions and you move differently, I believe that your intuition is heightened. You know what I mean? Because sometimes, like, being around a lot of people, following the crowd, the masses, whatever you want to call it, it can be very stifling to a person's just cognitive abilities, intuitive senses, because you have so much noise around you at this point. If we sit you in the dark room, honey, you're not going to know what you're feeling, what you're thinking. Like, it just becomes so crowded. So I'm going to wrap up this podcast by saying that this podcast is for anybody who thinks for themselves. Like, period. Like, if you think for yourself, then me and you, we're 1-1. Do you have to agree with everything? Absolutely not. But I think if you are somebody who thinks for yourself, you can respect that. You know what I mean? And don't ever feel discouraged, by taking your own way. Because I'm telling you right now, like, we talk about God and we talk about all those things. But listen, honey, when God provides you with a vision, he's going to give you provision. Okay? Like, and don't ever wait up for somebody else's course, for somebody else's thing. Like, just understand this, because I'm not even knocking the whole course thing. Like, I think that is actually something that's very powerful. It's a really beautiful tool because, it really does help us. Like, we don't have to go to college to learn how to be good at digital marketing. Like, honestly, I think that's a very good, that was a very good bonus, in regards to this whole digital era. So we're not knocking it. But what I am saying is, like, don't ever be afraid to just not know and to just trust yourself and to do what it is that you love. Okay. And, nobody talks about it, but at the end of the day, everybody's had a journey. I think that, I remember my dad was telling me, because I was telling, I tell my story sometimes and I talk about what I've been through and where I'm going and things like that. That's just like me. That's just what I do, and he's like, nobody cares. Like, nobody cares about what you went through. Nobody cares. And I think that this is the new age of thinking, right? Like, this is where we're at moving forward. So many people have this fake or false persona about how it's supposed to be or how they supposed to be. You know what I mean? Because the truth is so ushered in the background. You know what I mean? It does absolutely matter where I came from, because now, for me personally, that's how I earn my stripes. What are you talking about? It totally matters. It totally matters. So yeah, at the end of the day, just do your own thing. Okay. Do your own thing. Think for yourself, make your own mistakes. I failed a couple times, but I know with every failure, I'm getting closer and closer to my success. But that's just my journey. That's my faith. That's what I believe. That's what I also know. You know what I mean? Like that. And that's because I've done it my way and I've took the time to understand my strengths, understand my weaknesses, and the forefront for me has always been doing what it is that I love. And I don't really think that you should listen to anybody who tries to tell you that when you get to the point of when you're doing what you love, it's going to feel like work. I don't think you should listen to that, because they're not really doing what it is that they love, but they have this success. And so now they kind of have to come out here and say that, you know what I mean? Like, so, I don't believe in any of that, and make your own way, make your own strides. And I'm going to leave you guys with your thoughts.